Hello, people. Welcome back to another anime review by your good friend Chad Marco, the big Aniki. Yes, I am back to my degenerate anime watching ways, and I decided to watch anime called Demon Slayers. I didn't know much about it going into it. It's just one of those anime that I kind of see in my peripheral, out the corner of my eye. And I say, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I want to watch something new that I've never seen before. And so I went ahead and decided on Demon Slayers. So let's get right into the plot and the details, etc., etc. So Demon Slayers is an action-adventure shonen anime authored by Koyo Haru Gotogi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it was serialized from 2016 to 2020. And so let's get right into the plot. Demon Slayers is about a young kid named Kamado Tanjiro. He lives in the mountains with his family, including his mother and several other siblings, just away from a small village. They live a very peaceful and simple life, and Tanjiro, being the eldest child, has taken on the role as the man of the house since his father died. One day he heads down to the village to run errands, but it takes him longer than usual, so he ends up spending the night at an old hermit's place, since walking around at night is dangerous because of the man-eating demons that roam when the sun is down. At sunrise, he begins his journey back home, only to find that his entire family has been slaughtered by demons. All but his sister, Nezuko, who has been transformed into a demon and attacks him. Tanjiro defends himself the best that he can, but is unable to overcome his sister's immense demonic strength. Just when all hope is lost, a demon slayer named Tomioka Giyu appears and rescues him. However, Tanjiro does not want to have his sister killed, so he pleads with the demon slayer to spare his sister. But the demon slayer refuses. Tanjiro attacks the demon slayer, and although he was completely outmatched, he impressed the slayer with his tenacity and quick wit so much that he spares them both and recommends Tanjiro to be trained by a retired demon slayer named Urokodaki Sokonji. Soon after, Tanjiro begins his hellish training under Urokodaki to prepare for the final selection, a dangerous life or death test that determines if one is fit to become a demon slayer or not. During his training, he is educated on the world of demons and demon slayers and learns of the Kibutsuji Muzan, who is the most powerful demon and the one who most likely transformed his sister. He then commits himself to taking on the task of not only finding a way to turn his sister back into a human, but also striking down Kibutsuji Muzan, the father of all demons. Okay, so that was the plot in a nutshell. Let's talk a little bit though about the world of Demon Slayers and how everything works. So Demon Slayers is basically about the long running struggle between men and demons. All demons are believed to be directly linked to Kibutsuji Muzan because he is the only demon who can turn man into demons, although there is one other special case, so we'll see how that evolves throughout the story. But clearly he has existed for many centuries and is believed to be the strongest demon of them all. Demons themselves are near immortal, never aging, and even being able to heal the most serious of injuries in a matter of seconds. The only ways known to kill a demon is exposure to sunlight, which nearly instantly destroys them and is their biggest weakness, and also being beheaded by special swords used by demon slayers. And there's also one case where they were killed by some special toxin or poison. So again, the story is still evolving as far as how everything works. All demons share a craving for human flesh, and by consuming humans, they become more powerful. The more powerful demons are able to use blood arts, which are magical abilities that make them much more dangerous than the average brute demons that merely have superhuman strength, speed, and recovery. The elite demon slayers also have near superhuman abilities achieved through extremely harsh training and the use of special breathing techniques that allow them to manifest various elements into their sword strikes. Demon slayers nor demons are officially recognized by the government, so for many, both are little more than myths and what ifs. So that was the plot and the world of Demon Slayers. Let's get into these cool ass characters next. Okay, so the first character is Kamado Tanjiro, the protagonist. So Tanjiro is the main character and hero of this anime series. As said earlier, his motivations are to avenge his family who were killed by demons and to turn his sister back into a human. Tanjiro has a few interesting traits, like his extremely keen sense of smell, which almost works like a spidey sense that allows him to sniff out danger, as well as sense openings to strike at his opponents. He also has an extremely hard head, which he uses as a weapon at times. He has a lot of the typical shonen protagonist traits that we all know and love. You know, he's hardworking and extremely diligent when it comes to his training. He's brave and faces down any danger with a full head of steam. And he's very caring and empathetic of others and always wants to lend a helping hand. A good Boy Scout. Now, not surprising to me at all, Tanjiro is one of the few humans who seems to show pity to the demons, and typically that sort of trait is something I find to be annoying in most anime protagonists. But in this anime, it actually made sense because most demons were normal humans at one point, so I give him a pass on that. And I do like how Tanjiro's attitude isn't necessarily rooted in the same sort of simple-minded determination and never say die mentality that other protagonists tend to have. I mean, he has those traits, but they stem from a more believable place because the anime does take time to develop him and give him the proper character building experiences so that when he does end up in those dangerous situations, his reactions are just more believable because his fears and his doubts are expressed through his thoughts or internal monologues, but also his resolve has been thoroughly tested every step of the way. And that's what gives him the confidence to move forward during the worst of times. And as a fighter, he's still evolving, but his primary style revolves around sword techniques based around the water form, which allows him to be very adaptable to changes during the heat of battle. But in my opinion, a good protagonist. He's very likable, if not a little standard. So next is Nezuko, who is Tanjiro's younger sister. As a human, she was relatively normal and a beautiful young girl that was very close to her family. After being attacked by demons, she alone was turned into one. Even though typically turning into a demon overwhelms the victim and forces them into a human eating frenzy, she somehow retained enough of her humanity to not immediately kill Tanjiro after attacking him. Through the use of hypnotic suggestion and a special bamboo charm, most of her primal demonic urges have been suppressed or redirected, making her divert her aggressiveness against other demons instead of humans. Nezuko's unique situation acts as a beacon of hope and intrigue as to the possibility of reversing or managing the demonic curse. But yes, Demon Nezuko is pretty adorable. I gotta be honest, the way they draw her and some of the scenes and her cute childlike mannerisms makes her very endearing to the viewer, which makes you fully get behind Tanjiro wanting to protect her despite being a demon. Somehow she still has it in her to want to protect Tanjiro, so occasionally she will use her powers to assist him in battle, almost like a loyal dog companion. But I think she's a very effectively written and designed character that plays her role without getting in the way of Tanjiro and everyone else. She's there, but almost in the backdrop most of the time. So next is Urokodaki Sakonji. So he is a retired demon slayer who takes on the task of training Tanjiro, initially seeing that he had potential but was too empathetic towards demons to be an effective demon slayer. Still, he accepts him as a pupil and puts him on a tough training program, to say the least. Although at first he seems to be pretty distant and simply going through the motions, over time he develops an attachment to Tanjiro and even sheds tears of joy once he makes it back from the final selection test, which several of his students never returned from. He always wears this Tengu mask, and I assume it's because he has a badly scarred face or something, but at this point it's unknown. Like Giyu, he too stakes his life on Tanjiro and Nezuko's goal of reversing the demonic curse, which also demonstrates his belief and investment into Tanjiro. He's essentially said if she ever kills anyone, then all three of us are gonna commit harakiri. But of course, what we have here is your obligatory wise sage grandmaster character, like a Master Roshi, a Genkai, or a Jiraiya that serves as a trainer and teacher for the protagonist. So next we have Tomioka Giyu, who is the first elite demon slayer that Tanjiro runs into. He's a highly experienced demon slayer who is a member of the Hashira, which is a small group of the best demon slayers. He rescues Tanjiro from his demon-turned sister, but allows her to live out of some sort of interest in their predicament. At this point, not a lot is known about him in the story other than he is very capable and powerful, but also relatively introverted and stays to himself. I suspect there is a lot more to his backstory based on the fact that he co-signed Tanjiro keeping his demonic sister around, which means death for him if his sister ever kills anyone. So despite not seeming to be completely on board with the decision on the surface and Tanjiro's attitude towards demons, the fact that he has staked his life on Tanjiro's success says volumes. Like Tanjiro, he also uses water form techniques and probably learned them from Urokodaki, I would assume, because he recommended him to Urokodaki. And so just a quick honorable mention, the Hashira, which is a very colorful cast of characters. They are the elites of the demon slayers, and of course you got to have this ragtag group of rock star special looking hero characters. And but at this point in the anime, we haven't really seen much of what they can do outside of maybe one or two of them. So definitely a group that I'm interested in seeing their full potential of as I get deeper into the anime. But right now, not much is known about them other than they're the best of the best. So next is Kibutsuji Muzan, the big bad guy. So Muzan is the primary antagonist of our story. What we know about him thus far is that he is considered to be the first demon, and the demon that is responsible for turning humans into demons throughout history, and the only one capable of doing so. Although, quick note, there was one demon early in the story that claimed that she did one time but was never able to repeat it. So again, it's one of those things where they say it's one way, but it kind of evolves over time. He also appears to be a shapeshifter, which allows him to blend into human society somewhat, and even seems to have a wife and child with him. His grand schemes are unknown as of yet, but he seems to roam the land looking for people he can turn into demons, and the most powerful and worthy he turns into one of the 12 blood moons, which is a group of the most elite and dangerous demons that serve directly under him as opposition to the demon slayers. So it's like his version of the Hashira. Just how powerful he is, I don't know, because it's so early in the story, but what I have seen is that this guy does appear to be pure evil, even killing and deceiving the demons that serve under him. He rules over other demons through sheer terror and domination, and it's really some scary shit, and effectively sets the tone for him as a villain, because if you treat your quote-unquote allies like this, just imagine what he could do to the humans or demon slayers. But somehow he knows Tanjiro and specifically wants him dead. Oh, Tanjiro, you wouldn't have to be special, would you? Oh man, so next we have Agatsuma Zenitsu. So Zenitsu is another demon slayer who befriends Tanjiro later in the story. He got into debt over a girl in which his grandpa had to bail him out, but only in exchange for Zenitsu becoming his pupil and learning the art of demon slaying. But Zenitsu is lazy and a coward at heart. He hated this arrangement, but reluctantly endured the hard training, even though he tried to escape several times. And despite his best efforts, Zenitsu was never able to bear any fruits from his training, and even got struck by lightning while sulking in a tree one day. But his grandpa never gave up on him. He took the final selection test and somehow passed it despite being afraid of his own shadow. So the truth about Zenitsu is that mentally he is a coward through and through, but his body has internalized his training to such a degree that when he passes out from fear, his subconscious takes over and he is able to unleash fast and devastating lightning form sword attacks. And I like Zenitsu because I think it's a different take on this ally archetype. You know, I think of characters like Krillin or Shippo from Inuyasha who are really like scaredy cats, but the difference is he's not like just afraid until the right moment and then somehow summons the courage. He really is just scared to death of everything, and he has to pass out just for his survival mode to kick in. He also kind of reminds me of Miroku from Inuyasha a little bit because he's a bit of a light womanizer, just not as gropey and smooth with it as Miroku was. But he too is in a rush to marry and make babies because he is afraid he's gonna die young. His fighting style is based around the lightning form, and he only knows one, which is a super fast quick draw sword technique that enables him to move at incredible speeds and decapitate demons in an instant. So next we have Hashibira Inosuke. So Inosuke is one of my favorite characters, and I'm sure is also a fan favorite. Inosuke grew up alone in the mountains because he was abandoned by his mother as a baby. Somehow he survived and became one with his environment, almost like a Tarzan type person. Because of this, he is basically a wild man with very little understanding of societal norms and basic human etiquette. He became a demon slayer after a chance encounter with one who saw his physical abilities and convinced him to take the final selection test, which Inosuke agreed to primarily because he wanted to test his own power against demons. So unlike Tanjiro and most demon slayers, Inosuke isn't motivated by revenge or a sense of duty to protect humans from demons. He is driven by the very simple desire to fight strong enemies and to come out on top. You know, he's a battle addict like Goku. You could almost say he lives by the law of the jungle, which is eat or be eaten. Of course, though, after teaming up with Tanjiro, he begins to have new experiences which evolve him as a person, particularly when he experiences kindness from others, as well as Tanjiro's more diligent and principle-driven approach to battle. Otherwise, though, he is very much a crude and animal-like man without manners, and this makes for a lot of comedic moments where his simple-minded aggressiveness causes him to disturb and scare people wherever he goes. His fighting stance is based on the self-taught beast form, which is really just hyper-aggressive, in-your-face, dual-wielding swordsmanship where his sharp instincts do all the thinking for him. So just another quick honorable mention. We have Shinobu, who is another elite member of the Hashira, and she is known as having a insect form of some type. But she becomes a more important, like her and her sisters become more important characters right towards the end of the anime, because they help take care of Tanjiro and his friends after a very serious, dangerous battle, and help them with their training to get them to the next level. But not much to say about her at this point. I suspect that her sister, though, might eventually become the love interest of Tanjiro, but definitely keep an eye on this character. So next, let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, so first let's talk about the good. So this might sound kind of bad on my part, but it's effectively dark and tragic. This anime is damn dark. There's a lot of violence, a lot of death, and just so many tragic moments laid throughout the anime. Even just Tanjiro's backstory, just innocent little village kid, goes back home, finds everybody slaughtered, and his sister is now a demon that wants to eat him. And that's just how it starts. That's just where it begins, you know. And then you get to the point where Tanjiro is training under Urokodaki, and then you find out that many of his students didn't even like pass the final selection test and were killed, right? Despite their potential, despite everything that they could have went on to do, just snuffed out before they could even pass the basic test, right? And the thing is, it's like every character, every significant character just has this tragic backstory. Like nobody was able to make it to the point where they're at in the story, as far as being a significant character capable of slaying demons. No one can get to that point without having endured one, ridiculously hard training, but also some sort of intense, depressing, traumatizing tragedy that even motivated them to want to fight demons head on in the first place. So whenever you're introduced to a new character, you always have to keep in mind that at some point they're going to reveal some tear-jerking, sad sob story. like damn near every time. You know, I think so far Zenitsu might be one of the few who just didn't have like this ridiculously sad backstory. But even Inosuke was just dropped off in the woods somewhere, right? And there's also this real sense that important characters could die at any moment. I just remember watching this and really, other than Tanjiro, I would not have been surprised if any one of the main like good guy characters would have got killed. Like that was just, I was on edge the whole time. And I was just like, it just really felt like anybody could die. Kind of like that early Attack on Titan feel where you just really felt like anybody could get it. And in terms of like just being dark, I feel like really it's almost like what people said Chainsaw Man was. Now, I haven't finished Chainsaw Man, so I can't judge it as a completed product. But I remember going into Chainsaw Man thinking that this is going to be some dark shit. Don't get me wrong, it's violent and over the top, and you have important character deaths. But I think that for me, Demon Slayer did a much better job of establishing a world that felt like anybody can get it at any time, and without even utilizing that very often. But you feel that's just how it feels at all times. And I think part of that is just the fact that Tanjiro as a character isn't like some goofy motherfucker like Denji. And so that definitely helps keep the tone serious. And I just remember the early parts are so dark and depressing that when they started introducing comedic elements to the story, it felt awkward. It didn't even feel right. But gradually as the story went on and they started adding different characters like Zenitsu and Inosuke, and then you started having more like funny hijinks situations, it felt more natural. But early on, I'm telling you, it's so dark and depressing that when they do start introducing like funny moments, it doesn't even fit. And also though, there's also this sense of like relief, like, okay, this is like some hot springs type episode. I can relax. Nobody's gonna right. But I just think this anime is effectively dark and tragic. And so another good point is the main trio dynamic. So at this point, the main characters, as far as like the main group that are traveling together and fighting together, is, well, really is four if you add Nezuko, but it's Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, and also Nezuko. But mainly talking about the three guys that fight together. So typically in shonen protagonists, or in shonen anime, the protagonists tend to be very goofy. And then they'll have like a straight man sidekick, a more serious, no nonsense sidekick. You know, you got Goofy Goku with serious Vegeta. You got Goofy Luffy with serious Zoro. You got Goofy Naruto with serious Sasuke. You got Goofy Denji with serious Aki, right? That's the most normal dynamic you will see. You will have a goofy shonen protagonist, and then you will have like a straight man who is just more no nonsense, and it's a good balance in how they play off of each other. But I think what's interesting about Demon Slayers is that Tanjiro is the straight man compared to his two extremely goofy and quirky allies in Inosuke and Zenitsu. And I mean, they're extremely goofy and quirky. And luckily you have Tanjiro there to kind of balance it out. But I just find it interesting because usually it's the reverse, where the main character is the goofy one. But Tanjiro is actually more serious, even though, he can be, he has his moments, but he is definitely the straight man out of the group. And then the other two are just so gone. They're so out there. And, and it really makes for some very good funny moments, when the anime isn't taking itself too seriously and they are in a more relaxed situation, or even sometimes in the heat of battle, you might have some stupid moment, right? But the chemistry between the main three, at least as it's established at this point, is so good. And like, I remember just one part where they were recovering in this resting house for Demon Slayers. And Zenitsu knew that Tanjiro had a demon in a box. And then at night, Nezuko started coming out of the box. And it scared the fuck out of Zenitsu. And that whole scene for me was like so hilarious, man. It's like, but just a very effective main trio team with excellent chemistry and just perfect comedic timing. So the next one is a very important one, and I think it's one of the major themes of the anime. It humanizes the demons in a believable way. So obviously all demons were humans at one point. You see a demon, you're introduced to a new demon enemy, a character, and in order to survive and to become more powerful, they eat humans. They consume people. So obviously these are not enemies that you can get on their side and empathize with typically. It's like, oh, fuck the demons. But the fact is, every demon, no matter how heinous their crimes, were human at some point. And it was the demonic curse that changed them, that gave them the craving for human flesh and the necessity to eat humans in order to survive. And so when you look at it, it's much like zombie movies, right? Where you look at zombie movies, you notice you don't really hate the zombies the way you would hate like a normal villain character, like a villain character that is consciously committing evil acts for the sake of either their own desires or furthering some scheme. You don't hate like zombies are looked at as like a natural disaster or like a mass force of incoming death rather than something specific to hate, because zombies are typically just victims of whatever virus or whatever turned them into zombies. And as much how Demon Slayers works as far as the demons, the most of the demons that Tanjiro and the other Demon Slayers run into were humans. And when they were humans, most of them were just average people. But after turning into demons over time, the demonic curse corrupts them more and more, and they eat people, and then they just become consumed by the demonic curse, and then that becomes what they are. But the thing is, the way it's done in Demon Slayers is that oftentimes, either during or after a battle, typically after, the demon, once they're face to face with death and their life flashes before their eyes, you kind of get a short backstory or info on what they were like as a human, like right before they turn into a demon. And so because of this, it allows the viewer, one, to feel at least some sympathy. Like you don't get so riled up and just hate the demons, fuck the demons, because you have to always keep in mind that, you know, there's a certain lack of conscious control over what they're doing, almost like somebody turning into the zombie. You look at the guy in the zombie movie that turned into the zombie as a victim, almost like the guy in like the original Dawn of the Dead, the white guy that ended up turning into a zombie in the mall. Like that part always stood out to me. You know, you slowly see him turn into the zombie, and it's a sad, slow decline as everyone watches him change and become sick and eventually transform. You don't see him as the zombie enemy. You see him as my friend that turned into a zombie. And I think that's almost kind of how it's portrayed in Demon Slayers. And so, you guys, if you watch my anime reviews, you know I do not like a lot of the anime protagonist morality shit where they'll say stuff like, if we kill him, we're no better than them. Right? You know, JoJo, at the end of JoJo Part 4 and stuff like that, Vash the Stampede and Trigun. You know I don't like shit like that. But you have that here, but it's at least somewhat justified because it makes sense because of the way the demons are portrayed. As you look, they were regular humans and then they got transformed into demons, as opposed to, you know, just being completely conscious of, okay, I'm doing evil shit just for the sake of. So what is the bad? And this is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but it tries too hard to humanize the demons. And, you know, I have a belief, and it's that oftentimes our best qualities are linked to our worst qualities. Someone that is arrogant can also be perceived as being confident, and vice versa. Someone who is perceived as being funny could come across as being goofy at times. Someone who is very disciplined can be perceived as being inflexible and stubborn. And I think that's what we have here with this core theme of Demon Slayers, as far as trying to humanize the demons, is that it's part of what makes it good, but it's also part of what makes it bad to me. And the thing is that from the very beginning, I saw that this was going to be a core theme, because you see Tanjiro not only trying to protect his sister, who has become a demon, and then you see how how Giyu reacts to it, like demons are only to be killed without mercy. So you see what the general idea or mentality is for the Demon Slayers. All demons must be killed without mercy, no feelings, no nothing. And Tanjiro is here to change that notion and to challenge that notion. Okay, I can ride with that, you know. But I saw that from the beginning, and it's funny because I correctly predicted that they would overdo it and it would lose its impact. And so towards the end of the first season or the first arc, you have a big battle against a very powerful demon who is one of the 12 blood moons. And of course, much like what was previously done, initially he's introduced as being like just this pure evil demon. I'm killing and eating everything that I can. I'm even torturing and fucking up other demons. Like I'm pure evil on the surface. And then when it comes time for him to die, suddenly the anime wants to present you with his tragic backstory before he turned into a human. And I mean, before he turned into a demon. And now you're supposed to feel sorry for him despite everything that he did. And I remember in that moment, it had no effect on me. I sat there and I cringed. I did not like it. Why? Because it was overdone. Like, you can't keep going to the well like that. And so by that point, they had already done it too many times. They don't do it every single time, but for most significant demon battles, that's how it'll end. It'll be this, they'll be introduced as this pure evil demon that has done the most terrible of things. But at the very end, as they're about to be killed and their life flashes before their eyes, they reflect back on how they were as a human. And then now the viewer is supposed to feel bad for them. And again, it's effective sometimes, but you can't keep relying on that. You can't keep going to that well. And it was just funny because I predicted it correctly. I knew it. I said, you know what? I like this, but I guarantee you they're going to push it too far and it's going to annoy me. And by the end, they did it just one too many times and in the worst kind of way. And it had no effect on me whatsoever. It was cringy. I sighed. I remember I sat back in my chair and I was just like, oh, brother, here we go. Now I got to feel sorry for Mr. Serial Killer. Right? They just do it too many times. And see, the thing is, what I believe is that you can do stuff like that, but you also have to give the viewer the satisfaction of defeating evil. Sometimes you just have to have that character that is just evil and has embraced it. Every significant demon does not have to have this tragic backstory where they were forced into demonhood against their will. I think it would make more sense for Muzan to seek out people like psychopaths, killers, and rapists who would be more likely to be acclimated to his blood and to embrace being a demon, right? That would make more sense, so that when Tanjiro or any other demon slayers encounters those types, you don't have to feel sorry for them after he defeats them. You get the satisfaction of, we took that motherfucker out. And you have to give the viewer that sometimes. Because if every battle ends in this tragic backstory, oh, I know I killed hundreds of people and ate them and tortured them and killed other demons. I ate babies, ate about 13 babies, but when I was a human, I was sick. It sours the moment. It sours the moment when you do that every time. You gotta give the viewer the satisfaction. When Goku defeats Frieza, don't have Frieza laying on the ground cut in half like, my dad never loved me. He forced me to take over the galaxy. I really liked Vegeta. He was my only friend. Like, don't do that. You gotta give the viewers something to say, yes, he did it. We got it. When you sit there and try to turn every significant battle into a sob story at the end, you get that moment of hoorah, and then it's like, oh, no. And also, it goes against what Nezuko is trying to establish as a character. And what Nezuko represents is the possibility of demons retaining a certain level of humanity. And so what I feel like oftentimes with these sort of sob story demon enemies is that it kind of is going against what Nezuko is establishing, which is that there can be some level of humanity that is retained. And with that comes a certain level of responsibility to show restraint, because that's everything what Nezuko is doing. There was one point where somebody was stabbing her and was offering their blood to her just to prove that she would turn on humans, and she refused. She had the restraint to refuse. And so what I'm saying is, I feel like when you keep trying to portray every demon as a tragic figure, not only are you not giving the viewer the satisfaction of the protagonist defeating evil and being able to stand on that, you're also saying that, well, they don't have to be responsible for the act. The demonic curse is just so bad, right? You have, like, there's nothing you can do. But then at the end, we're just gonna feel sorry for you. Like, you're not even gonna understand what you did until you're dying and it's too late. No, look, do it sometimes. Fine, I get it. It's one of the core themes of the storytelling here. I got you. But we need some psychopath, serial killer ass motherfuckers that's like, yeah, Muzan, give me that blood. Let me go. Let me get to it. We need some Jeffrey Dahmer type demons. Right? Like, I found Jeffrey Dahmer and just gave him my blood and turned him into a super gay rapist killer. We need more of that, so we don't have to goddamn have a sob story at the end of every battle. So what's the score? So I give the action a 4 out of 5. The action is very good. They had, and one thing that surprised me though was that some of the demon abilities or the demon blood arts are very unique and interesting. I didn't expect it. Almost JoJo-esque, I dare say. You know, you had one demon who was able to manipulate his environment by banging the drums coming out of his body, and it would change the arrangement of the rooms and flip the rooms. There was one demon who was able to move and manipulate people with arrows that would come out of his hands. There were a lot of like surprisingly unique demonic abilities being used. I thought it would be more like just straightforward battles of brute strength, but oftentimes Tanjiro and the other characters had to really use their wits to overcome the enemy, because they didn't always come with straightforward, just regular power moves. So I think the fights were very interesting. The plot, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. You know, it's no Berserk, Banner the Hawk plot line tier storytelling, but you know, I think it's good. It kept me, I would say, like by episode 7 or 8, I was hooked. I couldn't put it down. Initially, I was just like, okay, you know, it's all right. But I say give it to about 7 or 8, and you're in there. And a lot of that is because of the plot and the established characters, and just wanting to see how things unfold. The animation, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's very well animated. You can tell they put a lot of money behind this. This had to have a good budget. There was no quality to speak of whatsoever. There were some moments where you could tell they were using 3D models for certain scenes, but it wasn't as like jarring as it was in like other anime. Like, I think in one of the Dragon Ball Super movies, there were certain points where they used like 3D models instead of like 2D art, and it just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't look right. And here again, you see it occasionally. And obviously that's kind of a cheap way or easier way to animate things. But it doesn't get in the way, and it's not overly done. But the animation quality is top notch in this anime for sure. The music, I give it a 2 out of 5. It wasn't bad, but it didn't really stand out to me. It was music that was fitting for the anime itself. But what was anything that really stood out to me as being particularly good? The comedy, I give it a 3 out of 5. The I was about to say the movie, then I was about to say the game. The anime, the anime starts off on such a serious, dark tone. It takes a while before it to really find its footing with the comedy. It starts off so dark that when you have those first moments of like comedic relief, it's honestly awkward. Like real talk, it's awkward and it's almost weird. It's like what? But again, after about episode 7 and 8, and when Zenitsu gets properly introduced and all that, then the comedic timing just becomes so good and effective. And so definitely some good comedy in this anime, as you would expect from a shonen. It's got a good balance of both, but I think early on it does feel a little awkward because of how serious the anime comes in and how long that seriousness is prolonged until things kind of get more relaxed. And Ichi, I give it a 1 out of 5. There is no sexiness to really speak of in this anime. You got some cute girls, but nothing risque. So overall, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. This is a great anime. Great anime. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. After about episode 7 or 8, I couldn't put it down. I gotta be honest, man. Sometimes, you know, when I got into watching anime, I'm the type, I'll force myself to watch something that I don't like a lot. Now, if I hate it, I'm not gonna finish it. But if something is mid, I can force myself through a mid anime. I can force myself through a mid anime. It'll just take longer to finish it. But I know an anime is good when it gets to that point where I can't put it down. Like, I think the last time I felt that was with JoJo Part 5, I believe. And when I got to about 7 or 8, I was like, yo, like it's on. I really had to force myself to stop at some point. Like, okay, stop, go work out. It got that good. And I started working out while I was watching it. I took it back to the old school. Because it's really good though. I highly recommend Demon Slayer. It is a good anime. You will not be disappointed, most likely, depending on your taste. So I hope you guys enjoyed that anime review. I would love to get some recommendations as far as what you guys would like me to review in the future. Either something that I've already watched or not. Hopefully something that I haven't watched. As far as the next review, I got my eyes set on going back to Gungrave and doing an anime review for that, or another older anime called Cyber City something. But we'll see. I've also been thinking about watching Naruto Shippuden soon, but that's long as fuck. But again, in due time. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next anime review. So, Johnny.